Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Hey, who wants to put on bear costumes and tear apart the tents of people camping outside Best Buy for Black Friday? Raise your hand.
Wait, we're already talking Black Friday?
Yeah, afraid so. They've been leaking online what's been coming out, and I'm like, other than maybe a new TV, I don't really care.
The last couple Black Fridays, the only good thing about it has been when WrestleCrap Radio does their Black Friday show. The first year I really went nuts for a Black Friday was 2005, and I had to work at the group home. It was Thanksgiving, so of course it's a holiday. I worked, and for the first time, like Best Buy, and I forget who else said, and you can buy your Black Friday stuff online. I got to work, and one of the staff brought in a DVD set. Well, they brought in Law and Order. I brought in the 3 sets of 24, which were all there were at the time. And the residents at the group home who couldn't go home, we just sat and watched 24 all day. So as they're watching 24, I was like, click, 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 click. Black Friday shopping done at Best Buy. Boom, done. And I went in on Saturday and picked it up. And then every other year since, I've been looking at what Best Buy has for Black Friday and went, don't care. Joe's talking. Joe, why don't you... Well, hold on. Jen Wicked is here with us now.
Yeah, I couldn't find a place to park.
So you just parked on top of a smaller car, right?
Yeah, it was a smart car or something. I wasn't paying attention. It was dark.
Holy crap. Do you realize that as of Thursday, several days after this podcast will drop, that Back to the Future 2 will be a movie about the past?
Yeah. You know how I know that, Joe?
Because the lack of flying cars is disappointing.
Because it's all anyone's talking about on Facebook.
I could
saw
use
those
a Mr.
movies.
Fusion.
I saw those movies for the first time. I think it was last fall, or it was sometime in the last year. I think it's one of those things that you had to watch it when it was originally out, kind of like Star Wars, because I don't get it.
I remember I really liked the first one, and then the second and third one were fun, but I have not gone back and revisited them. And I always worry about a lot of special effects heavy movies from the late 80s on, because when you watch if you watch CGI movies from like the 90s, they all look like somebody made them on their Commodore 64 at this point.
Yeah.
But Joe was talking about people are already starting to camp out at Best Buy, right?
I was?
That's
Yes.
not true.
Joe?
What?
Do you even remember what you were talking about?
Not when Jen's here. She's just bedazzling. You know, I hate it when people say you don't need alcohol to have fun. I mean, you don't need running shoes to run, but it helps.
Yeah, well, I'm not drinking tonight. I got some Diet Coke, but there's nothing else in it.
Well, that's probably a good thing.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Joe, are you drinking tonight?
I've got Diet Cranberry and some ice water.
That does not sound like an alcoholic beverage.
You said drinking. You didn't say if I had alcohol.
Oh, okay. Well, we were talking about all sorts of different options that we could have to start the show with.
We were talking about MSP Comic-Con 2016, May 14th and 15th at the Minnesota State Grandstand. Advance tickets on sale January 1st. Since everybody else is sleeping, you can go to www.mcbacomiccons.com, but I don't think anybody's done anything since FallCon.
Bunch of lazy slackers.
I know. Jeez. You don't hear us complaining. I mean, it's not like we recorded oodles of hours of videos and we're waiting to see what our master editor is going to do with them so we can all share and see our vast trove of podly goodness?
Well, I will fill you in on what's going on with those podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. If you're subscribing via Stitcher or iTunes or that weird German thing that really, really loves us, and for some reason people have downloaded episode 85 like almost 10,000 times off of it. I don't get it. You German people need to let me know what the hell is on that episode you like so much, and we'll do it more.
Not like we're going to go back and listen to it.
No, I don't have time for that. That's just crazy talk. But we will have a new episode of the audio from FallCon every Wednesday until we're all out. And at the rate I'm going, it could be 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that. We got a lot of audio, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And we have learned something by working with this audio, and that is your microphone does not do a very good job of recording what's behind it.
Oh, I blame your Audacity.
I blame society.
That's a condenser mic, isn't it?
Because when
It's only
Butch
going to
was
record
here,
from one direction.
no, it's got a switch in the back that will record both ways. Because it works when Butch is here because we get him, because he always sits across from me. But there was a track that Audacity was trying to record, and I wonder if that's what it was doing.
Well, I tell you what, we will get a second chance at this at the Holiday Geek Expo. Let's see, it's 12/5 and 12/6, where we will be guests.
And me, I guess.
If you want to come along, sure. And this time I'll even make you bacon without the praline on it.
Excellent.
Anything else you guys want me to bring? Anything?
Have they made
Joe?
a booze exception for me?
It doesn't matter. I sneak booze in for you. It's a hotel.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh, do I need to bring in a larger thermos?
No, but we could maybe try something harder than champagne.
Champagne and, okay. You just send me your drink orders, ladies and gentlemen. I'll mix up drinks at the table before we interview people.
I just really need to invest in a flask.
I have a couple of flasks somewhere. Anyway, we will have more detail on the Holiday Geek Expo once Dan gets back to me, because he hasn't gotten back to me other than saying, yeah, we want you there. We're going to give you a table.
Curse him. What did you say? Did you piss off Wolfie?
Woofy.
No. Wolfie was in our last episode. In the news break. As well as Reginald Von Reginald. The guy's becoming a thorn in our side, Joe.
Pretty much.
We should not have let him record episode 52.
Shh. Now you're breaking kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
But Joe and I were trying to figure out what we could talk about this week. Let's see, we thought we would talk about the reviews we need to do, but neither of you guys read them yet.
Yeah,
It's
that was
like we got homework
work.
to do for this damn program.
Yeah, I don't want to do
no
fucking
fun.
work.
We were going to do a thing about how to introduce new comics to people who haven't read comics before, using the lovely and talented Jen Wicked as our guinea pig. I mean, as our example. But she said no.
Very wise.
We were going to have Butch, regale us with stories.
Yeah, where's Butch?
He's doing something with his kid.
Butch sitting.
Ever since he got a kid, he's never on the show anymore. So, you guys have any ideas?
I got nothing.
I got nothing. We could look at previews.
Oh, cool! I have previews right here.
Which means Jen probably won't get to do nothing.
Oh, no. I'll mention comics, and then she'll go, I don't want to read that.
You know what I bought recently?
Today I want a cat. I don't want a cat. I want two cat. I don't want to be an adult. I don't even want to be human. I want two cat.
You know they make Captain Crunch cereal now that's shaped like tiny donuts with sprinkles on it?
They've made that for a while.
Oh, really? It
Yes.
said new on the box.
If it's sick food, Cory will be all over it.
They also, the Oops All Berries, when they put that out, they always put new on the box.
Well, I don't feel special anymore for buying this cereal.
You can still feel special. You can have your donuts. That's good. Ooh, that's right. I need to bring donuts that Jen can eat next time, and unlike the ones that Joe eats.
Why can I not eat Joe's donuts? And why did that sound really dirty?
I know, I'm grinning disgustingly.
Because as I said last time, you know the Hostess donuts in the bag that taste like you're eating candles?
Yeah, I ate some of those this morning.
These are worse.
See?
I don't really think that's possible.
Joe, is it possible?
You go for the cheapest donut available, and Hostess is not the cheapest.
Someone's dropping some oxy so they can put up with me. That's great to hear.
No comment.
Well, Joe, do we want to do a quick look through previews?
Yeah, let's do that.
What's a
All
previews?
Right. Previews is the monthly monstrosity that comes out from Diamond Distribution that lists all of the comics and magazines and books and games and toys and shirts and bric-a-brac and frou-frou and shitty candy that no one will ever eat 3 months from now. And it's...
Ooh.
Let me take a look here. Let's see how many pages it is this time. 580 pages of comic book goodness. And I have to tell you, I read magazines. This is the most horribly designed magazine I have ever read in my life. If I wasn't someone who read a lot of comics and had been reading this for years, I would flip through it and go, what the fuck? No.
What the flaming blue hootie?
I haven't heard that in forever.
What the flamin' blue hell? I've noticed ever since Jen got on the show, iTunes always gives us the explicit tag now.
That's because you put the explicit tag on it.
Uh-huh, sure. Blame it on Apple.
That's what you're doing.
No.
He's more of a banana man himself.
See, now she's got to take more pills to put up with me.
Does it help?
It dulls the pain.
So, the Dark Horse, which, I'm sure they love us after 2 episodes ago, Joe. I'm sure they just can't wait to be our friend.
Hey, as long as I'm buying their crap, who cares?
Dark
Of course,
Horse
if Dark Horse does want to send us some free review copies, we're always game for that.
Doesn't Dark Horse do all the anime?
They do some anime. They used to do Star Wars, and then they lost Star Wars. They do tons of movie tie-ins, but knowing they were going to be losing Star Wars, they've kind of ramped up the creator-owned stuff. And some of it's interesting, and some of it you just kind of look at and go, really? Huh.
Yeah, Dark Horse does Berserk, so I'm not going to say anything bad about them.
We said bad things about their business practices a couple weeks ago, but their publishing, they start putting out stuff that I really enjoy. And as I went through it this time, the first thing I noticed was that they are doing a sequel to one of my favorite comics from the last 5 years, The Massive. It's actually a prequel, and it's the 9th Wave. And it gets more into how the world's economy collapsed before the Massive went missing. And if you never in your life thought that you would read something about economic downturns and disaster in the global marketplace and go, wow, this is great, this book will do it. Brian Wood is one of those people who focuses on individuals in the midst of large economic or ecological or otherwise massive change. And everything I've read of his, I've enjoyed, so I'm really looking forward to the 9th Wave. One of the other things that jumped out at me is Barbed Wire. There's no way in hell I will read this comic because I've never read a Barbed Wire comic I like, but Adam Hughes' covers for Barbed Wire are goddamn beautiful.
I like the Ellingtonville Club hardcover, which I'm definitely going to buy. And I'll just read right from it. It says, "Take no prisoners, trivia offs. pill-fueled Twilight Zone marathon, fan interventions. Here's the ultimate word on the fugly side of fandom. Collecting every Ellingtonville story from Dork, House of Fun, and of course the 1 and 2 comic that just came out that we were gabbing about a few podcasts before. These are the type of books that I absolutely love because I am pretty sure somewhere I've got Dork. I don't think I've ever bought House of Fun, but to just have everything in one book, and it's a hardcover at $20 was actually a pretty decent price.
And it's Evan Dorkin. Come on, everything Evan Dorkin does is brilliant.
Dorkin's no dork.
There was some news about a week or so ago from Dorkin. People have been asking him when they're going to be putting out more of the Beast of Burden stories. And he said that no one's been able to get Joe Thompson to turn in any art. They have a contract for another miniseries. The Simpsons wanted to hire them to do a version of Beasts of Burden for them. And Joe Thompson, who's half owner and artist, just isn't returning any calls. So that's kind of weird.
Which is weird because she's on Facebook quite a bit.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going through the reprints. There are two things that they're reprinting here that I really want to point out. The first is Will Eisner's The Spirit, The New Adventures. This was from 97, when Eisner was kind of in charge of getting people to do new Spirit stories. So he was able to round up Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, Neil Gaiman, Paul Chadwick, and Eddie Campbell, as well as an unpublished story by Gary Chandelier, a whole bunch of Eisner sketches. If you've not read The Spirit was a comic that was in newspapers from the 40s to the 50s. And after Eisner came back from World War II, he'd done a lot of art for the Army, and he didn't want to do just kind of standard sort of art. So he really experimented with layout and style and mood. And because it was in newspapers, the way it was printed, you would take basically you'd take those Sunday Funnies, fold it over again, and have a comic book. And since the reprints finished up, they've been trying to have new creators do it. This is one of the best of the kind of the bring it back, because Eisner, even though he drew comic books, had that comic strip feel in that anybody could read it. It was in the Sunday paper. You'd pick it up, you'd read it, whether you were a kid or a grown-up. He had to appeal to everyone. Then right next to it is the Creepy Archives number 23. They're getting near the end of reprinting the creepy stuff. At this point, the publisher, Jim Warren, had kind of vanished. So the people in the office were just kind of publishing whatever they wanted. And it was also the late 70s, early 80s, so you had a lot of people who were going between Marvel and DC at the time. So you had Archie Goodwin coming back. You had Alfredo Alcala, Jose Ortiz. Jose Ortiz, who had done this just amazing, amazing work on Vampirella, was also doing science fiction over for Creepy. And if you've never seen Jose Ortiz's art, he was a Spanish artist who, his stuff doesn't look like the stuff you see in America. It's a very, very different style, and very beautiful and very delicate. His ink lines are so fine that it almost feels like if you blew on them, they'd all blow away. A lot like Alex Nino and some of the Filipino artists who were big in the 70s. But we're getting near the end of the creepy and eerie reprints in these hardcovers. So while the stories may not be good, the art, these artists were just blowing it out of the water every time they put pen to ink. And the actual printing itself had gotten much, much better. So they basically were taking advantage of the fact that, hey, the boss isn't here, and the printing presses are actually printing our stuff on much better paper. So they really kind of stepped up the art style. like I said, stories aren't that good, but the art's beautiful. These are books that you'll just stare at for hours.
The only other thing from Dark Horse I'm looking forward to is Mystery Girl #1 by Paul Tobin writing and Alberto Albuquerque doing the art and cover. It says, Trina Hampstead knows everything, kind of like Jen. Ask her a question like, where are my keys, or is he cheating on me, or how are there perfectly preserved mammoths in recent ice, and she just knows. She's the mystery girl. The only thing she doesn't know is how she knows, or anything else from the last 10 years of her life. A beginning series, and it says for fans of Marvel Girl and iZombie. I just think it sounds kind of interesting. They give a free page preview, and art looks pretty good. So I'll give that one a shot and see how that goes.
Now, as I look through DC, whenever I look through DC, I'm just looking at the reprint stuff. I'm going to highlight something. I, of course, am going to buy it, but I talk about Kirby all the time.
All the time, pretty much. I mean, he just, Kirby this, Kirby that.
Well, there were a couple artists who came up at the convention, and we were talking stuff, and eventually it would go to talking about Jack Kirby and how Jack Kirby influenced them and all.
Did you ever get to meet Kirby?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
In '85 at the Chicago Comic-Con, it wasn't long. I got to shake his hand. I got to thank him for all the work he'd done. He asked if I was, doing anything creative, and the woman I was seeing at the time said, "Oh yeah, he writes." And Kirby was asking what kind of stuff I wrote, and I just, this, I do this and I do this, and he just kind of said, "Well, what you could do with that is this, and then this, and you could see that he was just off to the races."
Wow.
He never stopped thinking of new stuff, and the weird thing is, we had a chance to get him at our convention, I think in either '89 or '90.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people involved in the convention said, "Nah, we don't want to bring Kirby. I hear he's a real jerk and he's not good to fans."
Yeah, which.
And we were all just
kind
of, okay. And then a couple years later, we had someone there, and they said, "Why haven't you ever had Jack Kirby?" And I mentioned that. And this professional who, none of these professionals I will name, but this professional said, "Yeah, that guy's really fucking jealous of Jack and the fact that Jack gets attention. Jack is the greatest guest you could ever get, and it's too bad he's too sick to come here." So to anonymous artists who said that and kind of bulldozed us out of bringing him, go to hell.
Actually, I heard it from non-artists too, but I
Is
think
it anybody that's
crap.
still around?
Oh, yes. Yeah. We'll talk off the air.
Okay.
The dark side of Crazy Comics.
Crazy Comics After Dark.
Yes. Ooh, I like that.
Ooh. Maybe we could do that next week.
Hot gossip.
But there is a DC Comics Present Dark Side War 100-page super spectacular for $8. You get a reprint of Mr. Miracle #1, New Gods #1, #7, and Forever People #11. So if you want an introduction to the Fourth World, which was Kirby's creation over at DC, and I did not know that the books were out of print. What the hell, DC? Keep those books in print. Otherwise, people are going to pirate them because people need their New Gods. But this is a great introduction, especially with New Gods #1, which is probably the best first issue of any comic I've ever read. So for $8, you could probably go to a shop, pre-order it, get a 20%, 25% discount. Just pick it up and get an idea of the explosion of creativity you had with Kirby. You also get the early issues were inked by Vince Colletta. Joe, what's Vince Coletta's nickname?
There are too many. I call him the Destroyer.
The Human Eraser. You could see how he kind of blanded down Kirby's art, and then after he was fired, they brought in Mike Royer, and Kirby just said, "Look, just ink what's on the page. Ink everything on the page, but ink what's on the page." And you see this huge leap in how Kirby's technique was on the page. So For $8, come on, for $8.
The only thing I'm looking forward to, and you know I'm a sucker for a decent crossover, and since it seems like Marvel and DC are forbidden to talk to each other, thank God DC and IDW are, because we're going to have Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh.
Oh, God.
I know, it's just so campy, it's got to be good.
Now, I'm just going to put this out there. If you people loved me,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, na turtles.
Batman The Dark Knight Returns Frank Miller Gallery Edition hardcover. For $175, they reprint from the original art at the size of the original art. Not for publication, but basically, okay, they just shot that page. You can see the notes around the side. You can see all the, it's printed so well, you could see where they used whiteout. When those books are just so beautiful. Just so beautiful. $175 and totally worth it. And then,
wait, are you telling us to start a Gold Start or Kickstart for your Christmas present?
I'm not telling anyone anything, but if you really loved me, you'd buy me that. Or, I'm just going to buy the Showcase Presents Batman Volume 6. I love the showcases. They're the big phone book size reprints in black and white on cheap paper. They're reprinting pretty much the early 70s stuff, so you get tons of Neil Adams, tons of Irv Novak, Denny O'Neil writing a lot of it, David V. Reed writing a lot of it. This is kind of my Batman, the hairy-chested James Bond Batman. And these are comics that if you buy them individually, they're usually about $30 to $50 each. Hey, for $20, you get 25 to 30 comics in one big old book that you can just sit out on the deck and read. But really, other than that, with DC, nothing that's jumping out at me.
Whatever. Oh my God, whatever.
Whatever. Now, an Image, oddly enough.
You're skipping IDW.
There's a reason for that, because there's nothing new in IDW. I'm buying the things I'm already buying.
Can I point out something in IDW then?
Sure. It's not like it's our time. We have to sit here and listen to you bather on and on about comic books for funny.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Go ahead, Corey. My Little Pony Holiday Special.
Talk about your books.
My Little Pony Friends Forever.
No.
My Little Pony's a
Friendship is Magic.
A Caterlot Wedding.
No.
About My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
Not even getting Angry Birds, Super Angry Birds number 4.
Oh, I thought you were Jen in the Holograms person.
No.
There's a holiday special for that.
Rocky and Bullwinkle Classic Adventures. Reprinting all 12 issues of the Gold Keys series back from 1962.
Well, that's the first thing you said that worried me. I mean, it's Gold Key. Is it any good?
Written by Dave Berg.
Oh.
Drawn by Jerry Robinson. Yeah, these are good.
So half the time,
and if all you know of Dave Berg is the lighter side from Mad, Dave Berg back in the 50s, he did war comics, he did teen humor comics, he did movie tie-in comics, he did TV tie-in comics. Dave Berg was a really good gagsman. He was that old style of person who set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline. And with the Rocky and Bullwinkle stuff, they had a lot of people from Rocky and Bullwinkle sitting in to help them make sure that, okay, yes, have the kids' jokes, but also have the jokes that are for the adults, that the kids that are just going to fly by the kids. So that one I'm really excited about. The other thing that IDW is reprinting, and it's through Top Shelf, and if I could afford to buy everything from Top Shelf, I would. The Collected Essex County Limited Edition Slipcase. Now, I'm not saying to buy this unless you're a huge fan, but Essex County by Jeff Lemire is a must-read comic. Jeff Lemire tells the story of a small I'll just read it here. Let's see. Essex County is an intimate study of an eccentric farming community and a tender meditation on family, memory, grief, secrets, reconciliation, and hockey. With his lush, expressive inking, Lemire draws us in and sets us free. This is an amazing, amazing 3-book collection. And Lemire, this is his best art. And most people just know Lemire from his writing because after Essex County, DC snapped him up to do some writing, then Marvel snapped him up to do some writing. But this is just, it's a novel. It's not a comic book, it's a novel in picture form. And I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of those things that after you read it for months afterwards, scenes and images from the book will resonate in your head. So if you've read it already, you're probably looking at the limited edition slipcase going, I wonder if I could sell enough plasma. But just the 3 volumes that are out there, highly, highly recommended.
I will mention that if I had the money and I would buy comics just for the cover, I would go for all the Archie variants that they are doing this month. For example, you mentioned Angry Birds. Well, they happen to have Angry Birds fighting the Archie characters. You know, Pureheart. I don't know what Jughead calls his character. Popeye, of course, fighting some of the goons. It's kind of interesting, all the subcolors that they have that they're just tying in, tossing in some fun things like that. But it's hard enough to buy the comics for the ones you want to read and then just, buying, like Judge Dredd's got an interesting one with Archie and Judge Dredd on the cover. I mean, those are funny covers, but $3.99 a pop, and I don't even plan to read them. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
So you were talking Image.
Well, there's one thing in Image that, other than the normal things, I'm thinking about picking up the Copperhead trade paperback because they're out. They've done so far 10 issues, and I think 2 books, and the first one covers issues 1 through 10. Basically, Copperhead it's done by Brian K. Vaughan?
Brian K. Vaughan.
From, again, Saga, Why the Last Man. And I'll just read this off our favorite summary site, atomicavenue.com. Welcome to Copperhead, a grimy mining town on the edge of a backwater planet. Single mom Clara Bronson is the new sheriff, and on her first day she'll have to contend with a resentful deputy, a shady mining tycoon, and a family of alien hillbillies. Oh, and did we mention the massacre? I have picked up issue 1 when Discount Comic Book Service was blowing them out for pennies. I picked up number 2 somewhere along the line and enjoyed the both of them. Have not been able to find anything else. They're not terribly expensive, but I mean, anything you buy on eBay or somewhere else, you got to throw in shipping. So I think I'm just going to suck it up and buy the book, at least volume 1, and hunt down volume 2 when I get a chance.
There's another Brian K. Vaughan book in here, The Private Eye, the Color Burst edition. Beautiful hardcover version of the book, $50. And really what it does, it reprints the digital comic that Vaughan did a while back. He did it in 10 kind of digital bundles, and it was a pay what you want. Just as good as Saga, just as good as Why the Last Man, just as good as We Stand on Guard. Brian K. Vaughan, I'm so glad he came back to comics. And I was wondering why he came back to comics, because he's been working on TV shows, and TV shows pay a hell of a lot more than comic books. And by a hell of a lot more, I mean a frightening amount more. But then I've looked at the cumulative sales for Saga. He is starting to get into Walking Dead territory. First volume of Saga has sold a little over 70,000 copies. The second is over 50,000. And the sales keep going up. And we all know that Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead, pretty much sleeps on a big bag of money and has enough money in his car in the back seat that he just kind of floats on it.
I'm here. I heard big bag of money. What?
Brian K. Vaughan, the writer of Saga.
yeah.
Now, and we'll have Jin talk about Saga a little bit.
That's a good book. I enjoyed it.
But Brian K. Vaughan did a series called The Private Eye that was sold in 10 digital bundles, pay what you want. They're now reprinting it as a really nice hardcover for $50. Now, you read Saga, and you don't read a lot of comics, so I really love your opinion on it.
I liked it.
There we go. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.
Did I have more of an opinion previously? I know I talked about it with my bros, but I mean, no, I flipped through it. My friend Mark lent me the 4, I guess I don't know, does it come out as a smaller book?
It's comics and then trades.
He loaned me the 4 trades, I guess, that are out, and I sat and read them all in one day because we were recording that night and I put it off until the last minute. So I was going a little cross-eyed by the time I was done, but no, I mean, I first flipped through it, and part of the issue for me is that I tend to like stuff that's very distinctive and a lot of comic art, and this isn't a knock on any artists out there, but a lot of it like looks alike to me. So something has to really be different to catch my attention. And so when he first gave me the books, I kind of flipped through them a little bit, and it didn't really stand out. He told me the art was very expressive, but I didn't really get a lot out of it. But once I started reading it, I kind of started to appreciate that the art was actually a lot looser than it looked on first glance, and really getting into the story. I'm not much a one for fiction, but it's an exceptional comic, because I'm the kind of person that if I'm not liking something, I'll TV show, a movie, I'll get up and walk out of a movie halfway through if it's not holding my attention. Or I watched several seasons of House, and it's like, oh, this show's not any good anymore. I just stopped watching it. I don't care. And I read all 4 books because, once I got probably about halfway through the first one, I was like, well, he was right. This is actually really good. So, it totally deserves, whatever crazy sales it's getting. And I think it's probably a comic that has a lot of appeal to people like me who don't normally read comics, because it's more like it's not like superhero stuff, which I've never really been into. It's more of just a story that happens to be, illustrated that way.
Now, would it surprise you to know that the artist, Fiona Staples, is the one drawing the new version of Archie?
I haven't seen the new version of Archie, so no.
But I think it's fascinating that they went to someone who draws like that when Archie had such a well-defined house style.
Yeah.
And, if you're an Archie fan, you could tell the difference between the different artists, but most people, an Archie story is an Archie story is an Archie story, and they move to a very different art style. And I've noticed that the Jughead comic, the artist on that, also has a very different style that meshes with Fiona's. They're not the same, but they complement each other. And I really hope that kind of revives the property, because they've done a really good job with the Archie revamp. And the writer, Brian K. Vaughan, he's now got 4 books coming out from Image, and all of them have been great. I was looking through to see what was going on with We Stand on Guard, and it made me really sad that it was only a 6-issue miniseries. Hopefully he'll do another miniseries after this, because I so love the book. And Steve Skroce, who does kind of that manga, anime, mecha style, has calmed that down so that his people look like people, rather than like everybody looks like a mecha with a human face. Anything else at Image, Joe?
Negative.
Okay.
I did notice they've got a lot of their first, what do they call them, Image First?
Yep.
They got a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe we'll order a few and let our lovely Jen take a look at a bunch, see what she finds interesting, if anything.
What?
Don't worry about it.
I was reading something.
There was also some Image news that I wanted Joe's reaction to that came out of New York. Joe, did you hear about the new artist on Spawn?
Permanently or just an issue?
Have not heard. They said that, guess who's drawing Spawn, basically.
Yeah. I thought they said Eric Larson's just doing one issue, because he had done an issue, I think like number 99 before.
Yeah.
Which means that he's doing what? I don't remember the number issue he's doing. But I think it's just he's doing a single issue. I don't think he's doing the series.
Well, as we get past the big, well, there's Marvel, but I don't have my little Marvel.
Holy cow! I'm just reading a headline in Daily News. Vito Corleone feared murdered. Police hunt gunman. It's a violent world out there.
Joe, that happened in 1972.
It did?
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute.
Not only is Vito...
New York Daily Press, Submariner runs amok in city.
Joe?
Yeah?
That was 1942.
Oh. Never mind.
You need to get caught up.
I'm working on it. I mean, I finally just figured out Robin Hood didn't rob from the rich to give to the poor. He robbed to the government and gave back to the tax victims.
I thought he just stole lupins from people.
That was Dennis Moore.
Oh. Okay. A new company showed up in the previews that I'm actually interested in. Joe, did you see Aftershock?
We're going to skip Marvel?
I don't have my little Marvel book with me. Was there anything Marvel was doing other than a whole bunch of number ones?
They're doing Hembeck variants finally. Those variants I will buy. Star Wars is going into the annual territory. And I think the only other one that was interesting was the Red Wolf #1, just because it was getting a lot of odd press.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. I'm going to be interested to see that, because that's a character that no one has touched for 30 years.
Then again, if it wasn't for Warren Ellis, I wouldn't be interested in Karnak, so we'll see what happens.
Mike Martz, who was the Batman editor when they brought in Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka. Then he came over to Marvel and edited the X-Men, and now he is editor-in-chief of a new company called Aftershock. And let's see here. I'll read what it says. Aftershock is focused on many different things, but the 3 words above best express our mission statement. Story, focusing first on the best possible stories to tell. If it's not worth telling, try somewhere else. Quality, attracting the highest level of talent in the business to come tell their stories with us, whether it's experienced top 10 talents of today or the rising stars of tomorrow. Risk. Although the company originates from veteran comic book professionals, it is complemented by having founders with extensive experience in social media. I don't care about your experience in social media. I have experience in social media. I've been tweeting for years. Technology, I don't care that you could use a computer. Marketing, distribution, and TV film. Our crew is accustomed to taking risks daily. We welcome it. If it isn't a challenge, Aftershock isn't interested. What interests me is the lineup of people that they're talking about. We've got Andrew Robinson doing some work for them. We have John Cassaday doing some work for them. We have Garth Ennis doing some work for them. We have Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti, who's doing work for everybody. Darwin Cook, who's one of the top 5 artists in comics now. Don't even bother to argue with me because you're wrong. Paul Jenkins, who can do very good work, but also can do mediocre work. None of this stuff looks like your standard superhero stuff. The one that jumps out at me is Dreaming Eagles by Garth Ennis. World War II, Nazis, mayhem and death in the German skies, civil rights movement, America at siege, both home and abroad. Anytime you get Garth Ennis doing a war story, you're going to get a good story.
See, and I'm looking forward to Super Zero, which is about a 19-year-old high school senior who craves superpowers so she can be like her favorite comic book hero. I mean, that's normal, right? The question is how to do it. Radioactive bug bite? Parents gunned down to give you proper motivation? Toxic chemical exposure that every science book clearly states are harmful? Well, I guess a girl doesn't know until she tries. So we're going to find out, and Amanda Kahn and Jimmy Palmiotti are going to show us how.
And they've done really good work. You know, I like the Harley Quinn stuff they do. I like the Power Girl series they did. Palmiotti's one of these guys who, if you look through, he's done a lot of really interesting stuff. Not a lot of it has clicked until Harley Quinn. But even his failures are interesting. And Amanda Connor always has something interesting to say. I wish she would draw more. But, you know, it doesn't take as much time to write as it does to draw.
She's doing the covers.
Yeah, but that's not the cover I would buy. I would buy the Darwin Cook cover.
Yeah, I would buy that one. I might buy
Darwin
both.
Cook.
I might end up getting both. I haven't decided. I have a few weeks to decide.
So I'm interested in what they're doing. Flipping through the next batch. There's the Archie stuff. One of the things, Joe and I have been talking about Archie a lot. On December 16th, they're putting out not quite a trade paperback that reprints the first 3 issues, which are the 3 Mark Waid Fiona Staples issues that kind of start setting things up. If you want to get on with Archie, this is where to do it.
Get it on. Get it on with Archie.
Oh, let's see. I'm flipping through here, Joe.
I'm really, other than what we just talked about, I'm pretty much done. I mean, the other stuff I'm getting is pretty much stuff that I usually get. There isn't anything that I'm going, crazy over trying to figure out what to get.
Well, why don't I mention a few things then?
Okay.
Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Comic Book Archive. More Evan Dorkin. They're reprinting the entire series for, $34.95. So all the issues. It was Evan Dorkin doing Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure comics. I never thought I would give a shit about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Evan Dorkin is a cartoonist. His stuff always is kinetic. There's always stuff going on in the background that's always jam-packed with jokes. And Jen has asked me to bring comics. I'm bringing her some Evan Dorkin.
Hooray!
And some bacon and jack cheese pork brothers ketchup chips.
What?
Well, no, but I'll bring her over some Applewood bacon. But I'm going to bring her over the Collected Milk and Cheese. Even though the strips have a sameness to them, the cartooning is unbelievably dense and beautiful.
I absorb anything. I'm a sponge, so you just give me stuff you want me to absorb. And
Well, we'll talk about it more next week, but I'm kind of putting together in my head, I know the artists that you like, and not just bringing you stuff related to the artists you like, but also the people who influenced them. Because you picked up those Smithsonian books.
I did.
And you also picked up an R. Crumb book. And Joe and I talked a little about this before we started recording. R. Crumb was a huge fan of Mad the Comic Book and a monstrous fan of Harvey Kurtzman and Will Elder. So to know where R. Crumb comes from, you kind of need to know Will Elder and Harvey Kurtzman. So you've got Crumb, I'll bring the stuff that influenced him. That's how my brain's working on this.
They begot the Ellen Partridge Project, which I believe is some sort of hovercraft.
God. Let's see, flipping through, of course, the EC reprints. Do I have to mention that the EC reprints are brilliant every time they come up, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see what the EC reprints this time are. Let's see. The EC reprints that are available are Frontline Combat Volume 1, Two-Fisted Tales Volume 1 and 2, and Weird Science Volumes 2 and 3. Two-Fisted Tales and Frontline Combat are the ones that Harvey Kurtzman edited. I will be talking about those in the solo podcast. Kurtzman was insane. insane. And Weird Science was the EC book that the folks at EC were most proud of. Speaking of EC, Fantagraphics is finally printing The Life and Legend of Wallace Wood. It's a biography of Wally Wood. They also interview the people who worked in the studio with him, the editors who worked with him, and the person who put it together, Bob Stewart, who sadly passed away before this book could be printed, worked in Wood's studio and had been working on this volume for 30 years. So if you want to know about the life and the art of Wally Wood, this is where you're going to get it. And from what I have read, they're not cleaning it up. They're going to talk about how he did a lot of swiping, he did a lot of tracing, he, basically would find poses by other artists and just trace them onto paper because he was like, I don't give a shit about this job. It's not paying enough for me to care. But the stuff that he did care about, like Wit's End and Sally Forth, he just would pour his heart into. And it also talks about the alcoholism that pretty much destroyed his art and later his life. They also are offering again the Harvey Kurtzman biography. And Harvey Kurtzman wasn't just the editor of Mad. He wasn't just the guy who wrote and laid out Little Annie, Fanny, and Playboy. He worked in all sorts of art. He was an art teacher. And he was kind of one of these guys who would sabotage himself at every turn. So he became one of these artists that everybody looked up to, but also had to loan money to. And this book, if you want to know about Harvey Kurtzman, you want to know about the editor of Mad, this is the book to pick up. If you notice, I'm not talking a lot about the standard, this comic's coming out, this comic's coming out, because a lot of the stuff I want to highlight is the historical stuff. You know Spider-Man's coming out. You know Batman's coming out. You know the Doctor Who stuff's coming out. I want to highlight the stuff that you may not have thought of or you may not know exists. Joe, Grant Morrison's 18 Days. I have not read this yet. Have you?
I'm probably waiting till I get like 6 issues up and then give it a shot. The first issue I read was actually pretty good. It's very heavily steeped. Not as much as you'd think. I mean, it's obviously on Indian mythology. And at the back, it has a little primer, more or less, to kind of help you know who's who. But I figure just sitting down, it probably is better off in a graphic novel. But I'm definitely going to check it out once we get 6 issues. I think we're up to 3 or 4 right now.
And they do, they're soliciting the first trade, which is the first 6 issues. The other thing that I always look at every month is what Tomorrow's Publishing is doing. Joe, last episode you talked about Carmine Infantino. They are reprinting the Carmine Infantino Penciler Publisher Provocateur, which is a biography. But the one that jumps out at me is the one that came out after waiting for, 6 years. Swamp Men, Muck Monsters of the Comics. It starts with the Heap and goes all the way up to the modern ones. They have interviews with Alan Moore, with Steve Gerber, with everybody who worked on Swamp Thing, Man Thing, the Heap. But it also goes into the Theodore Sturgeon story that everybody kind of ripped off for these Swamp Men. And it goes into why Swamp Men kind of became a thing in comics, whereas no other media has really jumped on the idea. There have always kind of been Swamp Men in comics. So if you're interested in comics history, and especially if you want to read that Steve Gerber interview, which is just heartbreakingly beautiful, where he talks about coming into the comics industry pretty much a broken man. He'd worked in advertising and it broke his spirit. And coming into comics and learning how to tell stories through Man Thing pretty much revived him as a creator, but also as a person. So, and Alan Moore talking about coming in, this was his first mainstream comic book assignment. And from issue 20, which was his first one, to 2 years later being a superstar who was scared to death at San Diego because people were following him into the bathroom and shoving comics under the stall door to get him to autograph them. Talks about that explosion in popularity and how it had never happened in comics before. So those are the big things that jumped out at me.
And here Cory thought he wouldn't have much to talk about this podcast.
I always talk too much.
Well, here, I got some things to
Jen has wandered off somewhere. I try
she's
to bring
probably checking out spider webs in the corner. I got a couple things to cover. First of all, Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Cory, Christmas or Halloween movie?
Halloween.
Right. According to the director Henry Selick, he has settled it once and for all. It's a Halloween movie. So now that we've got that off the plate, we can go to something we talked about a number of podcasts ago. We were talking about variant covers and just how you order them. And it was pretty much as we talked about. I talked with Tim from Granite City, couldn't get him over from the podcast because lo and behold, at the Comic-Con, he was selling comics.
He was busy.
Imagine that. But he says ordering comics is pretty much like we talked about. You get the different variants where you order, for every 100 you order, you get to buy one of these. And when you buy them, you're buying them at half a cover price, or sometimes net. But it's never more than $5. And then what's really annoying, and Brian Hibbs alluded to this, and we talked about it, they have things where if you want this particular variant, you have to order 110% of this unrelated comic, or order your same numbers of this comic that sucks because we know you're going to order plenty of Avengers and X-Men, but we need you to order this one too. So, and I don't know if Tim's able to buy all the variants. I'm sure a place like The Source, Midtown can do it, but smaller shops just can't do it. I remember the first variant decision we had when I had Crazy Comics was a Wolverine variant. 300 copies and you get this ultra rare 301 variant. And I figured it would cost $280 just to buy. So I could turn around on eBay and sell it for, I think it went for $200. And then I would have all the variants paid for and be able to give them away free. And I'm like, what's the point? Skip it. So, Cory, are you going to be in Syracuse, New York anytime soon between now and the end of October?
Between now and the end of October, I'm going to be mixing the goddamn FallCon podcast.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're going to miss the all-you-can-eat testicles at Riley's in Syracuse, New York. And they're not just any testicles, free testicles. Lightly breaded, deep-fried testes from buffalo, bulls, boars, sheep, and goats with a side of ranch dressing. Some people buy them. Some people love the taste of them. They've been doing this for decades, and it's so popular this year, they had to order 40 more pounds.
Joe, if you don't stop, I'm going to bring up Deathmate.
The favorites are bull and bison, a raw version, which
Deathmate,
I will
Joe.
post. I'm sorry, man. We're talking balls.
Deathmate thread by Rob Liefeld.
If you can't have fun with balls, then I guess you can't have fun. So they don't ask people to pay for them. But you might want a beer with those nuts or some liquid courage to try them.
I think I would have to be passed out on whiskey.
Cooked, they look like a chicken nugget, but with a softer consistency, maybe like a fried scallop. The taste's a little meaty with the breading providing the flavor. The balls drop from their menu at the end of October. Until then, everybody must get stones.
Cory's such a baby.
Hey, I tried, when I was up north in Barrow, Alaska, I tried muktuk, which is the skin of the whales that the natives hunt.
Is it crunchy?
It's actually, it was real oily and had the consistency of gristle.
It sounds pretty gross.
And the thing was, I ate it frozen, and it was supposed to be a real delicacy for them. It was like the treat you'd give the kid. I ate it, I tried it. The oily stuff wasn't bad, but then you had to chew through the gristly stuff. And then I felt kind of guilty because I realized I was eating an animal that was probably smarter than I am.
Oh.
Well, great balls of fire. Poor Cory.
We lost Cory.
He should just man up,
Yeah, I don't know where he went.
Is it safe?
Eat bacon, don't jog, never eat fruit. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
See, you're not the only one that can come up with weird foods.
You do that again, and I will do a reading from. I will do a goddamn reading from Deathmate because I've got it right over there.
No.
I'm sorry, not going to work.
I don't know what you're talking about, but no.
No, we will
It's
never
the comic that makes
ever
Joe
let you read
puke.
Deathmate.
Then no more talk of eating balls.
You were probably Googling it.
No. It was eating breath mints and trying not to vomit.
I said eat them, not suck on them.
Oh,
Corey, do we got sponsors for this here podcast?
yes, and you know what? They're much nicer than you. They're nice guys. Matter of fact, here they are. This podcast, and all the other podcasts that we have on the Solitaire Rose Network, has sponsors. And our sponsors are, first, as always, our beloved DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best web host in the whole known universe. You need a website. Come on, you know you need a website. If you're going to set up a store, if you're going to start writing, if you're going to start drawing, if you're going to start creating, if you're going to start selling, you need a website. So go to DreamHost.com, use the code CRAZY, and get $20 off your first year. We have a new sponsor. That sponsor is Flaviar, Flaviar. Just go to the Solitaire Rose podcast website at crazycomics.solitairerose.com, where we're inviting you to join. It's a discovery service for spirits aficionados. You gain access to fine spirits at members-only prices. And if you use our link, you get a $10 credit when you join. Finally, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a good-looking person. And as a good-looking person, you cannot trust your skin to just any old razor. That's why we invite you to shave with the amazing razors from Dollar Shave Club. Every month, they send a box with your shave options. At the beginning of the week, you pop in a fresh blade, get that fresh blade shaved. It feels fantastic. It's just one of the many ways that I maintain my good looks, and you can maintain your good looks. So join us at the Dollar Shave Club. Their plans start at $3 a month, and they have a money-back guarantee. So if you want to join, just go to www.dollarshaveclub.com/crazy. We love feedback. So if you'd like to give us feedback, you can send us an email at cory.strode@gmail.com, or you can call our voice line at 952-856-0519. Send us an email, drop us a message. We'll put you on the air. We'll answer your question. We love to interact with our fans. We've also got Facebook pages for the Solitaire Rose podcast, for the Crazy Comics and Stories podcast, and the upcoming Solitaire Rose novelcast. So go to Facebook, be our friend. We love friends. If you would like to advertise on Crazy Comics and Stories, Solitaire Rose Radio, or the upcoming Solitaire Rose novelcast, you can just send an email to cory.strode@gmail.com, subject advertising. Thanks. All right, I'm better now.
Balls.
Joe?
Yes.
After our sponsors, you tell me that I'm supposed to ask you about what's going on eBay. So,
Balls.
Joe,
Stuff going on.
what's going on eBay?
Well, I'm going to type in fried testicles and see what we come up with.
Oh,
Folks, just
all right,
if you
enough.
want a picture of what Corey looks like, take anything off Facebook and just smear a little white oatmeal on it. That'll give you an idea.
Or just color it green.
What have I sold on eBay? Let's see. Well, I sold a Matrix comic book preview that came out in 1999 from Topps. It was intended as a movie theater giveaway, but it was pulled because it had a naughty word on the last page. And of course, since it was pulled, that means you can find tons of them on eBay. So
wait, an R-rated movie.
yes.
And they pulled it because there was what was the naughty word,
I
Joe?
don't know. I never looked.
So they were scared that the people going to see an R-rated movie might be offended by a bad word.
Yes. Good thinking there, people. Corey, are you aware of DC Comics We Can Be Heroes campaign?
Yes. You know what else I'm aware of? DC Comics, the Robot Chicken Special number 3 was on last night.
Oh, I missed 1 and 2. I'll have to Google it.
Slapper.
I ended up selling a variant cover, Superman Wonder Woman #1, the We Can't Be Heroes variant cover. And apparently, if you keep an eye on the DC website, they'll do different various things. Like right now, they have a deal, saving lives while saving money with the Warner Brothers Games Humble Bundle, because any of the proceeds they're using to send to save lives for real in the Horn of Africa. So something worth checking out. I picked up this comic off their when they were offering it, gosh, know how long ago. Ended up selling it. Other than that, kind of quiet on eBay. I'm still listing lots of things. So if you ever see anything you're interested in, or you do win something at KRAYZ on eBay, let me know through their email or through my email, crazycomics@gmail.com, and I'll send you something from the vast accumulation of crud.
I thought it was stuff.
It's shit, stuff, crap.
Crap.
It's all good. Stuff if I'm in a good mood, crap if I'm in a bad.
Aw, you're in a bad mood?
I didn't say that.
Well, you know what helps when you're in a bad mood?
Chocolate.
Right. No, getting it out.
Fried testicles.
Getting it out.
Just take them out.
Just talking about it.
Put them right in the frying pan. Bread them suckers up.
What do you...
All right already.
Is it time for freaking and geeking now?
It should.
If Joe will ever let me. Yeah, but he's talking about balls again.
You've been talking about funny books for about an hour.
Yeah.
It's time for freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
You know I'm reading the definitive biography of Bob Crane by...
Who?
Don't ask.
Bob Crane from Hogan's Heroes.
That's probably...
Oh, wait, that was before you were born.
The best thing he was known for. The sad thing is Bob Crane was horrifically murdered. Whoever murdered him basically took a blunt object and just... I don't know how you'd say it. Let's just say he didn't have a skull left by the time they were done. Afterwards, they found out that he had a collection of amateur pornography, and the news rags went wild with it.
Was it like him in the pornography?
I have no idea.
Oh.
According to what I've read, he would film other people, and it was the subject of a brilliant movie with Greg Kinnear called Autofocus,
bullshit.
Right?
Doesn't
matter. It was still good.
Every account... And see, that's the problem is that particular movie did more to slander his name than anything he did in his life. And that's one of the reasons they made this book, was because Bob, like a lot of people whose autobiography I read, like people like Walt Disney and Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was driven to do the things he did. Bob was the Howard Stern of the West Coast on radio. His interviews with people were legendary. He could drop names like anybody. He went forward once he conquered radio. Heck, even as a kid, he wanted to be a drummer. At 14, he was drumming with the jazz bands of the days. We're talking, late 40s and that. He wanted to be in television. Yeah, he was on a Donna Reed show. He did a lot of things, but he wanted that perfect vehicle, and he got it in Hogan's Heroes. He wanted to be a movie star. He worked hard to do that. He was driven to do it. He was waiting for that perfect role, and then he got murdered. So all this stuff that he did get erased by a slanderous movie that everybody remembers, but nobody remembers what else he's done. And it's really sad because, I'm reading the point where they get to the pornography, and they're doing this thing where they put in something from The Addictive Personality by Craig Nakin, talking about how this person gets uneasy and restless and guilty. And then they talked to people that knew him and said, yeah, it wasn't the Bob I knew. He was so friendly and outgoing. He wasn't a selfish actor. He was even with people he didn't necessarily get along with, like Richard Dawson. He recommended Richard Dawson for Family Feud. That made him millions of dollars. I mean, Richard, not Bob. Bob didn't do it because Bob didn't want to do that type of show. He did that on radio. He was waiting for the right moment. So I'm just reading the end of this book, and it's so sad because everybody who sees me reading it goes, oh, that was that guy that was into pornography, isn't it? And what were they going to do? He was dead. National Enquirer, Star, Weekly World News just went nuts with headlines over this guy. It's really sad that his entire legacy is down by a wildly inaccurate movie based on a studio executive's recollection of watching Bob's show called Celebrity Cooks. This guy never met Bob. He wasn't in the studio when Bob was recorded. Everything he did was hearsay, yet they made a movie out of it and just destroyed this guy's legacy. Oh, well, he's dead. Who cares?
I'm going to disagree with you on that, Joe, because the movie came out over, 30 years after it happened.
It doesn't really matter because it was really bullshit anyways. Again, it's based on the wrong recollections by a studio guy who wasn't even in the studio when Bob was recording the show.
Right.
Everybody that recorded the show said, I don't know where this guy got this shit from based on that particular day of being recorded.
But what I take issue with is you saying the movie destroyed his reputation. I
wouldn't say the movie. I would say the National Enquirer, the Star.
Right.
But the movie didn't help because it just continued the bullshit line that he was addicted to pornography.
And what it was at a time when that was still shocking. If you look at Bela Lugosi, when he came clean about his heroin addiction, he was already, his career was already in the toilet because of the heroin addiction. But coming out and saying he was addicted to heroin and going into treatment for it made it so the only person who would work with him is Ed Wood. No one else would work with him because they didn't want to have a heroin-addicted actor.
Doesn't matter if it happened. It doesn't make it right.
Right.
And that's why these people are writing this book, and maybe someone should do that for Bela Lugosi.
Well, that's why with the movie Ed Wood and things like that. But what I'm saying is when you're the first person when you're kind of the first person to come out and say, I have this addiction, or your addiction comes out, it's later on. By the 80s, People magazine, everybody who needed a boost to their career would go to a rehab clinic and come out and go, I've kicked my habit of booze, or I've kicked my habit of porn, or I've kicked my habit of heroin, or I've kicked my habit of this. And it's a career booster. But if you look, the first people who are kind of caught in that never ever recover. It's the people who come later who are the ones who do that. And the other thing that I will disagree with on you, because I know how Richard Dawson got Family Feud. He was by far the biggest star on Match Game. And one of the other game show companies was trying to hire him away. So Goodson and Todman went to Richard Dawson and said, all right, we have this concept. We're going to give it to you. We're going to pay you this much. Please don't leave.
Well, they say they offered it to Crane and he didn't want to do it. And he said,
that very well could be.
Why don't you do it, Richard Dawson? So,
because
and again, they how do you say, annotate and have everything in nice little footnotes in the back. So true or not, either way, it's history.
But that's in Dick DiBartolo, who's still alive, was the head writer on Match Game. He has given tons of interviews about that. And if you want, he's on Facebook. You can ask him. Dawson was trying to be hired away. They wanted to keep him. So they said, here, we'll give you this series. Because if you look at Match Game, remember,
and I was watching the day he left.
He was so popular they had to change the game up because no one would go to any of the other celebrities.
Well, he was almost a shoo-in. Unless you answered such a stupid question, you would always win.
And one of the things that happened with Family Feud, if you watch that, watch Match Game, he was hammered. 90% of the episodes, he was stone drunk. Match Game, on Family Feud, he had to kind of sober up. That's why he hated the show so much. much. But they were paying him so much money he didn't want to leave because it was an easy job. But he hated the fact that he couldn't drink on the job as much as he did at Match Game. Because one of the weird things about Match Game, they would film all 5 episodes in one afternoon.
Oh, yeah, they do that with all the game shows like that.
But there was an open bar. So by the 3rd or 4th episode of the week, you can see that they're hammered. So by Friday's episode, there were some episodes I've seen, because they rerun it all the time, where Brett Summers is so drunk that Charles is kind of holding her up for her to give her answer, and then they cut away really fast because she's just kind of plops back down. But yeah,
I wonder how much of that they cut too, because obviously they got a lot of it. So that's what I'm freaking on. And I'm not even finished with the book yet, but it's so sad,
Well, and with comic creators,
he probably didn't even have a publicity firm with them, nowadays, stars of that caliber, they have their, again, like Schwarzenegger, he has people handle his image for him, and even when he found out that he put his fickle pickle into one of the maids, it's still, it was like a news story for a minute and then it disappeared.
Yeah. Joe?
Jen, what's freaking you out other than the lack of gin?
Well, like, all the stores, are, like, putting out the Christmas stuff already.
Ah!
Which I'm, like, super excited about because I fucking love Christmas. So what I'm actually freaking on is the fact that I don't have any money to buy any of this stuff.
Haven't you found a place that buys plasma?
Oh, wow. I can't do that.
That's how I got through stuff.
I can't do that. I am, like, so... Like, I was okay the last time, but I have a hard time when they just do the little blood draws for, like, a checkup. I can't.
Prick?
Yeah, I can't do that.
You have a kidney.
Yeah.
You only need one.
You guys.
I'm trying to help.
Yeah, you're not helping.
Fine.
It's getting...
So much for our ideas.
I know. So go to my store and buy some art from me so I can buy Christmas shit. And also some sweaters, because I have like 2 sweaters. And
she's already sweating both of them.
It's getting cold outside.
And what is the, if people want to get some of the stuff cheaper, what is the code they can use?
Oh, the store is ginwicked.etsy.com, and my coupon code is going to be good through November 15th. Is just Xmas 2015, and it'll get like half off on everything that's in stock in the store right now. Because I just really don't care. I need some money.
Are you talking price, or do you personally rip everything in half and only send them half?
I'll sell it to you for half price, but if you want me to tear it in half, no, I probably won't do that.
And also, she won't talk about it, but I will. She's got the Patreon thing, and if you sign up for Patreon type stuff, you get art. You get art.
Yeah, you do. If you sign up for my Patreon at the $10 a month level, you get, I'll do a tablet sketch for you. You can request whatever you want me to draw within reason, but please stop asking me to draw Star Wars shit. I fucking hate Star Wars.
Oh, you're going to have a rough December, honey.
I know. And at the $25 a month level, I'll do a Sharpie sketch, which is actually posted on my Instagram and is a physical object.
Make her do a Sharpie.
Which you may...
Make her do a Sharpie.
Which you may, have the option to draw or to purchase the original artwork. It's not included because of rules with Patreon. But
to hold for yourself. Sweet mother.
And I'm going to tell you something about these Sharpie sketches. When you go to a convention and get an artist to do a head sketch, you know how they just spend like 5-10 minutes on it and here you go. Or, if they're Brian Boland, they charge you $200, spend 7 minutes, and it's the size of a postage stamp. These are full sketches on big paper, and the detail is unbelievable.
It's kind of a misnomer to call them a sketch because it's not really a sketch, but I kind of call it that because, I mean, really it's up to you if you sign up for my Patreon. If you give me a funny idea that I like, I'm going to spend more time on it than if you ask me to fucking draw Star Wars, and I'm gonna do like the bare minimum. So I mean, like the floor is.
Although
like,
you gotta admit, Jin's Death Star is awesome.
The floor is kind of, is something I spend maybe 20 or 30 minutes on, but if it's an idea I like, I do sometimes spend upwards of 2 to 3 hours on those pieces. But they still are Sharpie, and so I don't stress about, little imperfections or mistakes. I just kind of plow through to the end. But yeah, buy some stuff for me, please. I'm hungry.
Throw it to Cory.
Cory, what are you freaking on?
It is 2 weeks to NaNoWriMo. I have my plot. I have my characters. I have everything set. I am going to be challenging myself to do a 75,000-word novel this year. And on top of that, we have a bunch of solo podcasts dropping, including an interview that I have been trying to get for over 3 years. So I'm going to be very, very busy, and you folks are going to be getting a lot of audio. And also the audio from FallCon. Normally, I can take, like the episode we're doing now, it's going to take me about 2 hours to mix. The first FallCon episode is about 40 minutes long. It took me 3 hours to mix because I have to bring down the audio for the person interviewing. I have to bring up the audio for the person being interviewed. Because I'm bringing up that audio so much, it makes the crowd noise louder, so I have to filter that down, and it's driving me crazy.
But he knows it's worth it for you, our dear viewers.
And I'm learning a lot, so that when we do this in December, and I believe it's at the Doubletree Hotel in Bloomington. I have to look that up or something.
Bloomington.
It's going to be even better. I'm really excited about this, and I'm going to be putting out some feelers to some other conventions for us to show up at. So there's that. But, November, I could be stressed. So be kind. If you know someone who's going to do NaNoWriMo, be kind to them. Bring them caffeinated drinks. Bring them stuff that they can eat while typing. And please, for the love of God, ask them, how are things going? And listen. Because when you do this, you're writing an entire novel in a month. It becomes your whole world, which is a wonderful, beautiful, horrifying, terrible thing. Which almost sounds like a geeking. So, Joe, what are you geeking on? What are you loving? What's exciting?
I read one set of comics this week. Age of Ultrons versus Marvel Zombies. And I loved it up until the last 3 pages. Mainly because the last 3 pages wrapped everything up much like bad Star Wars or Star Trek episodes. But up until then, it was pretty.
And then it ended, the end.
It ended, the end. I had to read it 3 times. What? There's a light? And that's it. Huh.
Is it a light over at the Frankenstein place?
Over at the Frankenstein's place. Movie-wise, I saw Mad Max. The one that came out last summer.
Mad Max!
It reminded me is if you built a roller coaster out of a bullet train.
Mad Max! Mad Max! Mad Max!
Outstanding.
My name is Max.
But I'm not mad. I mean, even everybody in the house, including Dana, who had seen it before.
Perfect in every way.
And I don't know if you want to throw this out as a spoiler. Actually, I'll just say it was just an end of one of the characters. We all kind of went, ugh! So it was fun.
Mad Max!
We had kind of a down day. We just kind of sat indoors, watched movies. The second movie we watched, Avengers, 2, Age of Ultron, which my lovely wife did not see. I thought she did. No, she drove us to the theater and then decided not to go. So she enjoyed watching that. We watched all the extras that came with it, which was kind of disappointing because we watched them all. We would have hoped there were a couple thousand hours of stuff they could have put on. Watched it in the Blu-ray, and we topped it off with The Emperor's New Groove. Beware, don't throw off the Emperor's Groove.
That's a good movie.
Groove. The only other thing I'm geeking on is I'm slowly getting my basement in order. I have a habit of when I get new comics of taking a short box, putting them in the short box in alphabetical order, but then instead of putting the short box into the larger collection, I just have a series of short boxes with comics from various months in alphabetical order. Well, today I was able to take 2 of the short boxes, integrate them into the larger box, and now I still have about 4 or 5 short boxes to do. So, but slow but steady, it's working. So we're getting it together. That's pretty much all I'm geeking on. Jen, what are you geeking on?
They turned my heat on. That's good.
Hot stuff.
I fixed my TV finally, so now I can watch Mad Max. And you saw I just posted on Facebook the trailer for the season 6 of The Venture Brothers. It's going to be in January 2016, so I am excited. It's my favorite show. It's the only show I watch. Though I may possibly begin watching The Walking Dead and or Mad Men. I haven't decided yet. Nothing.
Throw it to Cory.
Cory, what are you geeking on?
I have started reading the first of the all-new Marvel, all-different Marvel, which is different from the all-new, all-different Marvel Now, which is different from the all-new, all-different Dark Reign, it's another time when they're just moving the creative teams around and everything. Marvel Point 1 was a bunch of decent previews that tried to be a story. And while I liked the glimpses of what I saw, it did not hold together as a story. So that's the first thing I read, and I was like, I don't and then I read Amazing Spider-Man #1. Joe, have you read Amazing Spider-Man #1?
It's on my to-do list, okay?
Joe, the last panel cliffhanger? Most times I get to a last panel cliffhanger and I go, okay, whatever, that'll be fun. I got to the last panel cliffhanger and went, oh my God, 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 oh my God. This was perfect. Set up the new status quo. It is Peter Parker as a successful person without the whining and kvetching. He's different from Iron Man because there were a lot of people who read the preview and went, oh, he's just another Iron Man. No, it's very different, and it shows the difference between the characters. But that last panel cliffhanger, oh my God, that last panel cliffhanger. I am so excited. I want the next issue right now, right now. I read Iron Man #1, which was the first of the all-new Marvel. And it was funny because I was reading people saying, it's too much like the movie. It's too much like the movie. You people do know that the Iron Man movies have made like almost $2 billion, right? Iron Man's kind of a popular character, and when people pick up an Iron Man book, they're going to want it to be like the movie.
I'm shocked, I tell you.
And if you look back over Iron Man through the years, he really hasn't had much of a personality other than he drinks, he's rich, and he sleeps with a lot of women. Iron Man has a personality now. I like the new status quo. I like the new setup. I think Bendis has a great handle on the character. I'm excited about where it's going. But the comic that really kind of grabbed me, and it's weird how with the individual issues I was kind of iffy on it, but the last issue of Bob Fingerman's Minimum Wage came out, and I sat and read them all. It's so good. It flows in the fact that each issue, while it continues the story, Fingerman's doing a very different storytelling style with each one. He even did a dream issue that didn't piss me off, because most stories about dreams, I want to throw them in the toilet and use a plunger and get rid of it, because I hate dream stories. But he used the dream story to further the characters and further the plot and move things along. It shows growth of the character, but it also shows so much growth in Fingerman's storytelling style that from the first issue to the 6th issue, he went from a really good artist to a phenomenal artist. He went from a really good storyteller to an amazing storyteller. And he talks about how the trade paperback's going to have to sell well for there to be a continuation. I'm really going to push that trade paperback, because as Fingerman does more work, he becomes better at the entire package. Not just better story, not just better art, but he's becoming a totally better cartoonist. And if Minimum Wage does not sell well enough to generate another miniseries, someone out there, whether it's Top Shelf, whether it's Vertigo, whether it's Marvel, whether it's IDW, someone needs to pick Fingerman up and say, do whatever you want and we'll publish it. Because
I got one more geeking.
Okay, thanks.
Of course, it'll be old by the time the podcast comes out. The new Star Wars trailer hit, even as Cory was going on and on about Fingerman. Woohoo!
and Jen is just glaring at you right now through the internet.
So
Yeah.
maybe I should do a deal for. So how much is it to get a sketch from you? Like you could call. You said it was what, a marker sketch or?
Yeah. Well, I will take commissions. Rarely. Right now, I'm kind of not, because I have a lot of past due backlog of work from before I move. Yeah. But I will still on the Patreon, and it's $25 a month. And I mean, you can sign up and do it for a couple months and then cancel. There's no obligation there. But if you want to just do like a straight up, I will do the Sharpie sketches on commission, because they don't take more than 2 or 3 hours. It's something that's pretty easy to work in my schedule. They range in price from the simplest sketches, $20 to $30, up to around $60 to maybe pushing $70 if you want something that's going to take me 4 or 5 hours. But other than that, yeah, they're pretty affordable. Why, you want one?
Well, I do, but I'm also thinking if I sell a lot of eBay, I could tell people I will front you the money to have you ask Jin to do Star Wars characters.
Oh, God! Joe, you want to get beaten, don't you? You're going to have to buy a lot of pizza.
I think I'm done here.
Oh, God.
Cory, what are you geeking on? What's got you going?
I just did my geeking.
Oh, that's all? Boy, you need to go out and geek more.
Well, believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for over an hour and a half.
Did you know amid lawsuits against Universal Studios alleging that producer Glenn Larson had ripped off Star Wars for his own show Battlestar Galactica, George Lucas was working on Raiders of the Lost Ark in England to avoid the impending strike by the Screen Actors Guild. The production crew wanted Tom Selleck to play Indy. However, Tom's CBS detective show, Magnum P.I., was also distributed by Universal and produced by Glenn Larson, who refused to release Tom during the strike to go to England. And when Universal won the lawsuit, some say that Glenn Productions' team thumbed their noses at Lucas by writing "fuck off" in the lights of Caprica City, which you can see if you freeze frame everything. Alas, it was a hollow victory, as Battlestar Galactica was soon canceled.
Oh, God. Well, as we say every week, kids, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Power doesn't corrupt. It's neutral. Somebody always wants to corrupt power. It's the way a shotgun is not a deadly weapon until someone chooses to use it irrationally. Steve Ditko.